All right, we are moving along in this simple project management series, and we are going to be talking a little bit about monitoring and controlling. I actually kind of touched on some of the monitoring and controlling in the last video, which was my execution video. And the reason that I did that is because when you really kind of look at process flow on um, the project management process, execution is really kind of wrapped with the idea of monitoring and controlling. While you are doing the work, you should be constantly using your plan to make sure that your plan is on schedule, on cost, and aligned to the scope of the work. So your plan should have all of these things in there for how you check this. If you are using your WBS is also a great way to develop some sort of quality metrics. Um, I will go ahead and jump back into the idea of that social media campaign for a moment here. And with the social media campaign, one of the things you might be doing in quality on that is if you have a person who you know who does some social media work, you might have them as a resource to check what you're doing in terms of quality. They may not be somebody who is within your organization. They may be somebody in your LinkedIn. They may be somebody that you know outside of your organization if it's a small enough project that you're undertaking that you don't have anyone in within your organization to be able to provide for that kind of project knowledge. But you have those quality checks in. You know where to go and that you have defined that in your plan. The other thing you need to do is rely on your stakeholders because your stakeholders are going to be the ones who are going to let you know how the plan is progressing, how execution is progressing through their eyes. And that's part of the communication process, part of the stakeholder process is you want to make sure that it's a two-way street, that you are providing the information that you have and letting them know that the project is going according to time, it's going according to budget. But also, you want to be able to make sure that you are monitoring those communications, monitoring those stakeholders, and as you give them information, that the information that you give them is being received and you're getting feedback and you're getting their thoughts on the project itself, because ultimately, as a project manager, as the person who is kind of like making the project happen, and if you are also the person who is executing the actual deliverables, you're not the one who's going to be defining success in this. Your success has been defined by your plan, which has defined success through your charter and through your all of your other pieces, your scope statement and everything, but it's really all based on your stakeholders. Who are the important stakeholders who are going to say yes or no? And you need to be able to hit your milestones, make sure that you're doing it. If you're not hitting these milestones, if you're not hitting these quality checks, you need to pay attention to why it's not being done and adjust things. That's part of the monitoring and controlling is knowing that you've planned for it. If there's a risk that happens, some sort of situation that's happened, you need to be able to identify it. Ideally, you've identified it in a risk plan earlier on, but if something pops up, you need to be able to jump on that, figure out how you are handling it, how you are going to handle it through the plan, and take those steps. Make sure that it's going to be within a framework that your sponsor, that your project is going to allow. because you stepping out and saying, well, I've been building this redesign of our company HR process, and I'm realizing that I have run into issues and I'm midway through, but I want to hire a writer. That may not be possible, and probably is not going to be possible, because you're looking at scope, you're looking at budget, you're looking at things that were unplanned for. So if you were thinking about, I've got problems with my writing, then you really needed to identify that early on and deal with that in your plan, so that your plan is driving the rest of the project, and that you don't find out that your project is driving the rest of the plan, because you can really, really blow things out of the water, and a project can completely go off the rails if you are not monitoring and controlling and keeping to the plan and understanding what is going on. If something does need to completely be changed, do not get me wrong. If something does need to be completely changed and you find out that it is happening in the project at some point, take that information to the appropriate stakeholders and get that resolved. Figure out what needs to happen, whether you need to step back from the project, rescope it, redo it, rework, whatever. But that will happen from time to time. It may happen from time to time, but ideally, your project should be kind of plotted out. You've scoped it, you've got your WBS, you've got your execution, you've got your resources, your costs, everything. And as your project's moving, you want to make sure that your plan drives your project, and that the project does not start changing the plan. If you need to change a plan, then you need to go through some sort of change method, which you've kind of defined. It's like, okay, well, if I run into a problem, I need to change it. But, and I just cannot stress this enough, while you are working on this plan, make sure that you have the foresight and the future sight to think about how you are going to be monitoring it and what you need to do, and use your resources, use other people, use your own analysis, use experts, use anyone that you can to make sure that your project is not getting away from you, because you're looking for success, other people are looking for success, your stakeholders, your sponsor, and you should ideally be able to do a great job on this, as long as you know that it's a process. You're kind of stepping through and you're iterating this process along the way. And I guess my motto is always go back to the plan. Anyway, we're going to be looking at the next video from here, which is going to be closing. But before that, reminder, you've got some stuff that you can download. And if you need to contact me, then go ahead, look at me on LinkedIn, look at me on my website, email me, talk to me, and I hope to see you again in our last video about closing. Thanks.